My name's Juliette Foster and I'm standing in for Georgie Frost, and you are listening to Share Radio Morning, making that pound in your pocket go just that little bit further. Now, this is the time in the show where we talk all things entrepreneurship. And today I'm joined in the studio by João Pedro Montes, who's the CEO of Wine with Spirit. Now, wine is big business with a market worth over $300 billion. Clearly, we can't get enough of it, but it seems that those who sell the stuff don't really understand the data around consumers. Well, it's a gap in the market the Joao and the team at Wine with Spirit are only too happy to fill. Joao, a very good day to you.
Good day, thank you so much.
Let's start first by looking at your background, because you grew up in a family where wine was consumed with meals, but your parents also ran a wine business. Is that correct?
Well, yes, even though I've never been exactly related to the wine industry, my family has somehow been related to the wine business for over 100 years.
100 years?
Yes. And but honestly, my relation was more drinking the wine and telling them how good it was and how fun I had the day before with it. So, of course, there is a passion about it, and especially in Portugal, which is such an important industry. But I did, until very recently, until we found Wine with Spirit, I did not have a close, active relation with the wine industry.
But was there an expectation in your family that you would move into the business, continue the family tradition?
Well, I don't know, to be honest, because they knew, or everyone that knows me knew that if I was to do something in the wine industry or in the primary or secondary sectors, I will do it totally different, because I don't like the status quo. When I do something, I like to make sure that we change how things are done, and I question every time why we're doing this and why can't we do it differently. And so I think nobody was expecting me to run a traditional wine business, and if I had to do something, it would be something totally different. It happened, right, with Wine with Spirit.
Sure, because what I find fascinating about the company and your background is that you gained your chief executive's experience working in the oil, the pharmaceutical industry, etc., and you've gone into running this wine business, and the business sees itself as a disruptor. And in that sense, you have disrupted the status quo, because you haven't gone into this industry via the traditional route, which was there for you through having the family business.
Exactly. Basically, I studied business, and I've initiated my career doing management consulting. Typically, when you don't know exactly what I want to do, I do management consulting to try to see what industry I would like to work at. But I started by doing a lot of projects in the oil and gas industries, so energy in general, and therefore, after some time, I've moved to the United States, where I work many years in the GTL business, which is gas to liquids. And so my base was mainly in Colorado and Texas, and most of my time was spent in Latin America, finding natural gas to be converted into diesel. So it's the most liquid thing closer to wine that I was working with.
You can probably find energy out of wine.
Exactly. Then, after some time, I've moved to Virginia, where I took my MBA at the University of Virginia, Darden Business School. And after that, I've moved to New York to work in the pharmaceutical industry, doing strategic management and development for the industry. I moved to Europe, still with the pharmaceutical industry, in a time where there was a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and I worked for Pfizer, and at the time we needed to restructure a little bit the industry. But I was having a very, as you can see, very corporate business, and typically from someone that has an education with MBA and all that, but something was telling me that I needed to do something by myself. I needed to try to be an entrepreneur. But I was in that moment that it was very difficult to make a decision, because you are very comfortable. You make good money.
Sure.
You are in a good position. People recognize you. But I was not totally happy. And therefore, I had my first entrepreneurial experience by joining a company that was starting, and I was one of the shareholders that started in developing that business, which is digital content distribution through mobile, basically videos, images, ringtones. And so that's what I had my first contact with 4.0. So basically the technology, the apps, the technology, and how the digital world can teach us so much about consumers.
Right, and that's important, because this is why Wine with Spirit stands out, because,
Exactly.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but you gather the data, and through gathering the data, you're able to work out what sort of wines people like and the occasions which you can tailor them to. Is that how Wine with Spirit works?
Exactly, and exactly that. So when I left Teamwe, I sold my position. I created a little fund, and I decided that I wanted to invest in something that it could somehow be related with industry that I love, which is wine, but at the same time that I could get all this knowledge about the digital world that we can learn so much. So what we brought to this industry was the capacity to learn from the behaviors of the consumers to know what product or what wine that person needs in that moment. Basically, before starting Wine with Spirit, what we did, we have hired the University of Leuven in Belgium, which has a spectacular department for consumer trends, as well as Couture, which is a company specialized in ethnography. And we have analyzed 2 emergent wine countries, Brazil and Poland, and 2 mature wine countries, France and Portugal.
So it's a very disparate area that you covered in terms of the countries.
Because we wanted to analyze the emergent, so the countries that wine is not in their culture, and countries where wine is the culture. And after 8 months of work and a lot of analysis and conclusions, there were 3 main conclusions that were absolutely fundamental to the constitution of Wine with Spirit. Number 1 is that more than 90% of the people, when they make the decision to buy wine, they don't do it based on a technicality. That doesn't mean that they don't know how to appreciate wine. They know exactly how to know if there's quality or not into it. But if it was older in French oak, American oak, or if it comes from terroir A or terroir B, is not important. Second conclusion was that different regions of the planet, they have different needs regarding the blend. If you go to Poland, which is an important market to us, or if you go to Russia or Germany, the need for a sweeter wine and more alcoholic is important, because they're used to vodkas and stronger. So they don't like as dry as we like, as an example, in south of Europe. And if you go to Latin America, the simplicity of the blend is important. If you go to Asia, the color can be absolutely fundamental for the choice. Third conclusion, and probably the most important for us, Wine with Spirit, to start, was that more than 90% of the people, when they have the impulse to drink wine, they do it based on a moment or an emotion. That means that nobody wakes up in the morning saying, today I'm going to drink a liquid with a big tannin and coming from French oak. I mean, you don't do that. Today I'm having a date. What should I drink? I'm celebrating an important contract. What should I drink? My boss is a pain in the neck. It's Friday. I want to go out and have a drink. What should I drink? Or my friends are coming over to watch food. What should I drink? And so basically, what we start doing is, how can we know what these people are feeling? And
I mean, let's hold this thought, in fact. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. There's a number of avenues that I'd like to pursue with you on this, and also some of the blends that you have come up with, which are quite fascinating. Dine with me tonight. Another one, bread and cheese and bastardo. We'll talk about that later. In a few moments, in fact. My guest in the studio is João Pedro Montes, who is the CEO of Wine with Spirit.
Share Radio. Researching, choosing and monitoring individual shares can take a lot of time and knowledge. That's why funds are so popular. You can sit back while the fund manager does all the hard work for you. Here at the Share Centre, we're committed to sharing our knowledge, so we maintain a list of preferred funds to make your choice easier. Our Platinum 120 range is handpicked by our analysts based on strong management and long-term prospects. So head over to share.com today to quickly and easily find the right fund for you. The Share Centre Limited is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Please remember your capital is at risk.
This is a live update for UK businesses. Right now, the world demands quality goods and services that UK businesses can supply. From technology to the USA, education to Hong Kong, or offshore wind equipment to France. For help and support meeting this global opportunity, search Exporting is Great.
Sharing ideas about money, making the pound in your pocket go a little bit further.
Welcome back. It is coming up to 10:15 here on Share Radio Morning. I'm Juliette Foster, standing in for Georgie Frost, and my guest in the studio is João Pedro Montes, who is the CEO of Wine with Spirit. And what we were talking about, in fact, was the way that João got into this industry in the first place, but more importantly, a survey that was carried out showing the different tastes of the various countries that he approached, and the knowledge, the realisation that people actually buy wine if it's hooked to an occasion. And it does seem terribly obvious, and yet it's clearly something that has been overlooked by a number of wine suppliers. What is the traditional model that they've used when they're buying and selling wine to the customers?
Okay, so basically, when we finished this this strong ethnography analysis and all this research, we clearly have the view that here is our position. That's where we center in the market, because consumers are talking a language based on moments and emotions, and traditional producers, they are talking about technicalities. And so there was kind of a difficulty between these two groups to talk to each other. And so we knew that's where we should be. We should be some kind of the absolute of wine, or the Hendrix of wine, of the Heineken of wine, where inside the bottle we have to have absolutely a fantastic wine, strong quality, and that's why we have more than 30 awards around the world on the most important contests, from Wine Enthusiast, Decanter, International Wild Challenge, Sonoma, Sakura, so you name it. We have been awarded as the most innovative wine company in the world in Germany by the Wine Innovation Business Forum. But our main task was to connect to the consumer, because he is the king. Traditionally, the producers, they make the wine, the winemaker makes the wine, push it to the market, and it's up to the consumers to learn about it and to come to the producer. And I thought that make no sense. Procter & Gamble and Unilever have changed totally that in the last 30 years in other categories, such as cereals, waters, chocolates, etc. So why can't we apply these methodologies to wine? The problem was that wine, with more than 1,000 years industry, it is kind of a godness kind of liquid.
And there's a snobbery around it as well, isn't there?
And basically, the winemakers and the traditional producers were talking from them to them. They were not so much centered in the consumer. So our innovation was not just the fact that we were helping people saying, this is what you're doing, that's what you should drink. This is what you're feeling, that's what you should drink. That's much more than that. Is totally changing the way we make the wine. It's not just communication, it's enology. Basically, we totally change. We start working from the market to the vineyard and not from the vineyard to the market. So basically, we identify, we segment who's drinking this wine, in what situation this person is, which is the moment, and then we brief our winemaker, Mr. Pedro Sereno, and only then he will start making the wine that fits to that occasion.
So it's basically customized wine, effectively.
It is. But it's very important to do that. Why? At two levels. Number one, many times we kind of destroy our relation with wine, not because the wine that we just tasted was fantastic, but because we took it in the wrong consumption moment. If both of us go now later tonight to a bar and have wine, and if they give us a very strong wine, maybe you have 2 glasses and we kind of feel heavy, etc. And
it's
you say,
not right for the occasion.
It's a terrible wine. No, it's not. You can have Petrus. It's one of the best wines in the world, and it costs $1,000 a bottle, but it's not as for the occasion.
It's not right for this moment.
So it was very important to kind of build the blend to the occasion, and then be able to communicate to the consumer. On top of that, for your question regarding the digital, okay, what is the digital doing here? Basically, for us, we have more than 2 million regular visits to our social networks and to our page, etc. This is not just communication, it's CRM.
Yeah, and this is live taste.
Well,
this your
it's Wine
platform?
and Spirit and Live Taste, our social page such as Bastardo page, Wine and Spirit page.
Sure.
So basically,
But you do have this platform called Live Taste, and that's a really important player in terms of gathering that data
it
about
is.
your
That's our
consumers.
third step on our because we felt we were extremely innovative in the way of producing wine, extremely innovative in the way that we relate with people and the wine. Basically, the word that summarizes wine and spirit is entertainment. So eno from wine and entertainment becomes entertainment. But we were kind of lacking being innovative in the distribution. And basically, what we've decided in 2015 is that, okay, we need to change because we have all this innovation. We have our final consumers really enjoying our wines, they really enjoying the experience that they have with us. But then we are dependent on a traditional distribution. We are dependent on a traditional shelf, and basically on top of all the problems that represents, because you know that traditional distribution kind of kills the producers in the sense that they smash margins, they don't pay you, or they pay late, and basically all the value stays on the distribution and not on who produces. So we decided to change, and basically Live Taste, what it is basically. Let's say if you have a bag and you put inside that bag Amazon, Uber, Farfetch, and Avon, and you shake it and you take something out of there as magic, you have Live Taste. Well, Amazon, in the sense that it's a very strong algorithm that is fed by all your behaviors when you are on social networking, because you have several levels of like, if you're sad, if you're happy, if you're angry.
Sure.
And we are learning about you.
Right.
Or if you buy these, or you say that, or you are there and you share that. So we are learning about you and what you're
This is
doing.
profiling the customer.
Profiling the customer and making sure that we have the right wine for that moment. And increasing conversion rates. And let me give you a specific example. I can do a digital campaign just by a traditional segmentation. Let's say women that live in big cities in Poland, let's say, from 25 to 40, that have drunk a wine in the last 6 months. Okay, that's a traditional segmentation, and I have a very good conversion rate just because most of people don't do that. But I can go further. I can apply comportamental marketing on top of it. I'll say, okay, same thing. Women, 25, 40, live in big cities, and then they have drunk wine in the last 6 months. But now, all the ones that last week were in a relationship and they stop in relationship, I'll give them a campaign about Bastardo because they want to go out.
Right.
If they were not in relationship and now they're in relationship, I'll do a campaign with Dine With Me Tonight.
Okay.
So take the people in the right moment, increases your conversion rates of sales.
Which leads me quite nicely to the brands, because one of them is called Bastardo, and that's one of the flagship brands. And then you've had ones like Bread and Cheese. I mean, and Dine With Me Tonight. I mean, what is it about the taste of these wines? Sadly, you don't have any samples here, so I can't judge it for myself.
I'll send one to you.
You'll send one. That's good. That's what I was angling for. But I mean, if I had a glass of Bastardo with me now, what would be the basis for my having a bottle? How would it taste? How would it taste?
Okay.
Would the taste be different to any other red wine that's out there?
Well, yeah, basically, so that let's separate the portfolio. Our portfolio is divided in kind of two segments. One is what we call moments, or we call food and friends, where we have bread and cheese, meat and meat, seafood and company, bread and cheese. So basically, it's clearly very obvious. This is what you're gonna have with your friends and we're eating. That's what you should drink, okay?
Right.
And of course, it's not just
match the wine to the
and
food
we match
there.
and we build the wine to that purpose, because you cannot have a very strong wine when you're just having finger food, and you cannot have a very light wine when you're having a strong stew or a big steak. So basically,
Sure.
adapting to the moment. On the other side, we have what we call the emotional wines, where we have Bastardo, Dine With Tonight, Voyeur, and basically, Bastardo, an example, as our flagship, is a very funny wine, because when we've launched it initially, it was for women that were angry at men, which is a great market and growing every day.
Especially the red version of that as well.
But then we ended up to see that most of the people that were consuming were men, women. We had people putting on the bottle, because you can write on the bottle, you can see QR codes on the back of the bottle. When you point your phone, you see videos that are generated by our own consumers and sharing. And so, okay, we understand that it was a more funny one. But the difference in terms of what you will find, Bastardo. So Bastardo is a celebration wine. When you're out, you're drinking. So basically what you try to do is a very good wine, but made in a way that you can have 3-4 glasses with maybe you're not eating and therefore not feeling heavy. So we gave it very easy to drink. So we test ethnography, through ethnography the flavor and continue to fine-tune the flavor so that the majority of people enjoy that flavor in that market. And basically, since you are celebrating, since you are in a place with your friends, not worry about eating, etc. We need to give you wine that you can drink as if it was beer.
So you won't be ill. You won't get drunk or anything. But I mean, another one which fascinates me here is voyeur. Now we all know what the word means, but I mean, a wine called voyeur. I mean that opens itself up to many interpretations.
Yes, basically the brand itself is called Carpe Noctem, which is Seize the Night, but then we have several editions. This edition, we have several editions of the Carpe Noctem. One of them is Voyeur, as you see there. Basically, a voyeurist is someone that is looking at something that he doesn't want the other thing to know that you're looking at, right? And basically is a temptation to have something that you may not have. And basically what we wanted to do is to create a very special wine. It's really a fantastic wine, awarded around the world. But most importantly, we challenge people to tell what were the things in your life that many times you wanted and you thought you couldn't have. But in reality, if you really tried, you would have. There was a journalist in Rio, in Brazil, that asked me, why here in Brazil you have Bastardo, Dine With You Tonight, Voyeur, and Feijoada. Feijoada is like a very popular dish in Brazil, where you have usually samba and football and party around that dish when you have it. And it's okay. Basically, when you are in a relationship, I was trying to make fun out of it. So, well, you are in love. You only have eyes to that person. So you are dining with me tonight. At a certain point, you start looking a little bit to the side. Then you are a voyeurist.
Oh, right. So you've given it another interpretation, another definition.
Then if you do something wrong, you become a bastardo. And then you have to start over again, so you start partying with feijoada. So, and the cycle goes around.
It just seems that you've actually created a library of wines to go with your life, basically. So you start off being very faithful, and then your eye starts to wander. You then go with somebody else. You get slapped on the face, which makes you a bastardo. But there you go. And notice I said bastardo. I didn't drop the O. But look, time is running very, very tight. But very, very briefly, do you feel that given the model that you have, what you've achieved, the markets that you've entered so far, that you've gained enough ground to deter any would-be competitors? Because wine is a really tough field, isn't it?
It is, and that's why we say we don't sell wine, we sell bottled emotions. And that's another very important thing, which is wine became a commodity until you sell an experience. And that's why we're not just selling the wine, we're selling that emotion, we're selling that experience. And that you have to work every day. Every day we have created our own rock band called the Three Bastardos. We have voodoo online. We have constantly celebrating moments that goes around the world, and that's what is very. You can create a label, you can create a brand, but you cannot create an experience unless you work it. And that's what we do every day, create experiences.
So it's a bottled lifestyle, created experience. But look, we have to leave it there. It's an absolutely fascinating discussion. All these brands of wine, or rather these names of wine, Bastardo and Bread and Cheese, to name just a few. But that was João Pedro Montes, who's the CEO of Wine with Spirit.